Hello everyone, welcome back to the kitchen table. Today on the kitchen table I'm going to do a review of an app which may or may not help to improve flight safety. We'll see, but before we go any further, obviously the beverage of choice for today has to be displayed, and it is today a glass of orange juice. Nothing else in it, there's no vodka, it's just orange juice, so cheers. Oh, nice and cold, it's a hot day. Okay, so a bit of background as to why I'm reviewing this. There's been a lot of publicity in recent months about UAVs, quads, multirotors, entangling with approach paths of airports. We've had sightings from the flight deck of, unmanned vehicles over New York, and we've had police helicopters claiming they were being buzzed, and reports of drones flying into no-fly areas set up because of emergency situations and all this sort of thing. And there's no doubt that it can be very difficult if you've not got an aviation background in knowing whether you should really be flying somewhere in terms of it's either controlled airspace or restricted airspace. Unless you want to go out and look at and buy an aviation chart, which if you've not seen them before can be, not the most interesting of things to look at, and quite complicated. There has to be an easier way. Now, I've found an app called Airspace Avoid. Now, it's actually sort of approved by NATS, NATS, National Air Traffic Service in the UK, and they are the people who provide all of the air traffic control and look after controlled airspace in the UK. And it's free to download for UK users. They do an international version which is not free, it has to be charged because I guess they can't get hold of the information behind it. It's not being given to them for free, but it covers America, Canada, Europe, Australia, possibly New Zealand, and some other territories. But I'll put links in the description to where you can get this from. It's from Pocket FMS. Have a look at it. Certainly if you're in the UK, this is a free app. It's a no-brainer, I think. So let's just have a quick look. I'm going to get the screen as close as I can, but obviously you'll have to bear with me. We might do some zooming in. Airspace Avoid. So when you first load it up, it's alright, we don't want to have that advert. When you first load it up, it's got to get some data, because obviously it needs to know that the airspace is still valid. So what you'll see here is it tells you what software version is and what the effective dates are. So as you can say, this is effective from 24th of July to 20th of August, so I'm in date. So I don't have to do any updating of the database. So I'm going to agree to the disclaimer, and let's have a look up, and we'll have a look, and I'll show you what it's all about, really. So we suggest spending a few minutes reviewing the tutorials. We're not going to do that. So at its basis, what you've got here is a top-down view of the local airspace. And that little blue aeroplane there is me. Obviously it gets this data from GPS. And this is designed for light aircraft pilots to carry with them on a device in their cockpit, and it will alert them. Which is why at the bottom here you'll see it's actually got some controls there, speed and time, and we can get rid of those. The other thing it's showing me is everything up to 5,000 feet, which is, a bit excessive, I think, for my flying. So let's modify that, and I'm just going to drop that down to 1,500 feet, because I never go any higher than 1,000 feet, to be honest, because that's as far as I can see it. So let's select that. Okay, so there we are. Now let's have a look what we can see. If just pinch to zoom as normal. And there's a base map under there with data on towns and bits and pieces. So if we zoom in further, it should load up other information as it goes. So you've got village names, the rivers appearing, and that sort of stuff. So what we've got here is basically our position and some circles, and the circles delineate airspace. Roads are coming in now, all sorts of bits and pieces. So as you can see here, we've got RAF Benson, which is on my doorstep. If you click that, you get an information box at the top which tells you information about the areas that you've clicked. So there's the top, Benson, ATZ, that's an aerodrome traffic zone. It's class G, which means it's not controlled airspace. and it runs 24 hours a day, and it's from the surface 2,200 feet above mean sea level. And as you can see, where I'm currently at home there, I'm within their zone. So as a courtesy, if I was planning on doing any flying, I would give their operations team in the tower a ring and let them know, and tell them I wouldn't be flying much above a couple of 100 feet and where I was flying, and they're quite happy to avoid me, which is quite nice. If you click the wider circle, you then get there what it is at the top. That's the Benson Mats. That's a military aerodrome traffic zone. Again, it's Class G. It's not controlled airspace. You do not need permission to go into it, but it just lets you know that there is military traffic that's going to be around there between the surface and 3,000 feet. So that's the kind of basis. I mean, you know, here's a little thing over here, look, that I never knew. Here's a little thing. Well, what happens if we click that? It pops up and says ASR, Manor Farm Hang and Paragliding Site. Sunrise to sunset, Saturdays, Sundays, public holidays, and 1700 to sunset, Monday to Fridays. During the winter and summer 1 hour earlier, from 1700 feet to the surface. Do you know what? It's not far from me, and I never knew there was a hang gliding and paragliding site there. So that just goes to show you something like this can be very, very interesting. So I'm not going to do any flying around that area during those times of operation. Very interesting. Other things, more important perhaps, are the big red rings. Let's have a little look here. Big red ring. Click on that. Let's go up here. Look at that at the top. Prohibited. It's Harwell. 24 hours. Helicopter flights are permitted for landing and takeoff only at Harwell with permission, and that's from the surface to 2,500 feet. That is very much a restricted bit of airspace. If you fly anything in that, even your model aeroplane, you're in potentially a world of trouble, because that is around Harwell, which contains the International Atomic Energy Authority's labs. It also has the Diamond Light Source. There's basically a lot of stuff there that they don't want you flying over, and that applies to all aircraft 24 hours a day. So again, if you weren't aware the extent of it, you take this to your flying site, load it up. If you happen to be taking off here, that little blue aeroplane would be there, and all of a sudden you would realise that you might be in a bit of trouble. What else have we got? The other thing that it does is it will list things called NOTAMs. So these things are permanent, pretty much. That's a permanent area. These are permanent zones around the airports and airfields and things. But there are things called NOTAMs, Notices to Airmen, which is delightfully old-fashioned, which basically detail temporary issues. Now this could be things that have gone bust. You know, lights are out on runway whatever, there are cranes, that sort of thing, but it can also tell you about temporary restricted airspace because of, I don't know, a major fire or a media event or the Olympics or something like that. So if you hit the NOTAM tab, which I'm trying to do, but my finger is stuck behind this little tab. Oh dear, I'm so professional. There we are. So you could show them for miles and miles around, as you can see here. I don't want to show them for miles and miles around. I want to show them a single location, which is where I am, which is next to Benson, for a radius of 40 nautical miles. No, I don't think so. Let's do it down to 5 miles, because I'm not going to be flying any further than that. And then it brings up a list of all the valid notices for the 5 miles. So you've got here, like I said, look, 3-degree glide path to runway approach is suspended. Not relevant to us really. Bryce Norton, TACAN, Bryce frequency, so that not available Monday to Friday. Okay, well that's not relevant to us really. Safety directive to operators of offshore helicopters, not relevant. And some broadcast information about potentially hazardous situation in Ukraine airspace, which is unfortunate, but we won't have to worry about that where we're flying. And that's it. So now I have pretty much checked that there's nothing nasty going on in my area that I'm planning to fly here. There are no notices of a temporary restriction. I can now put this away. It's taken me a couple of seconds to check all those things. And you could also at home do a little bit of prior researching to any flying sites you want to go, if you know you're going to be flying down here, for example. Somewhere near Bourne Park, there's a little airfield there, look. Not a major one, it doesn't have an aerodrome traffic zone, but nevertheless you might want to just fly a little bit further away from that and avoid incoming traffic. You've got some more restricted airspace down here. So I think that's a pretty good little app for free, to be honest. Let's exit that. Yes. It always seems to crash. That's on Android. I believe it's available for iOS as well. As I say, free to UK users. It is charged for elsewhere, but worth a look. Link down in the description to where you can get it from. If you are concerned about, not deliberately, but perhaps accidentally flying in places which either you shouldn't, or which are potentially a bit unsafe to do so, or where you're going to come into conflict with some bigger air traffic, I recommend you have a download and have a look at that. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that was useful to some of you, and we'll see you again soon on the kitchen table. Cheers.